Hello there, Ray here, and I'm joined by Earth Computer,
Hi.
as well as Smokey.
Hi.
And today we're going to go over tile entity data deletion, also known as TED. This allows you to make several different types of tile entities being invisible, even gives you some really cool things like being able to convert skulls, making legless hoppers, and even coming in with some glitched out enchanting tables. So this was first started when Smokey was messing around with some ender crystals and making some headless pistons. He came across ghost blocks as well as block 36 that have no tile entity data, and we messed around with it a bit. But then it wasn't until Smokey released that video, and Myra Irio showed that this can be applied to Schalke Boxes in his video, and we're going to go ahead and try this with all the tile entities, and you can check out those videos down in the description. So the setup would look a little bit like this, where the player would try to replace this block after it gets destroyed by the ender crystal with a different tile entity, and we'll be using command blocks just to make this easier for demonstrations. Then after explosion, something like a banner, when it broke off, would turn into a black banner. The way that Smokey came across it was kind of by mistake. Earth Computer looked into code, and he'll explain how this occurs.
So in the first tick, all the tile entities all the tickable tile entities in the world get ticked, including this brewing stand here. What's important about this tile entity is that it's tickable, not anything else. That's the main property. And so this one gets ticked first, and then once I turn the lever on, the block 36 is created here, and then in the first tick, that gets ticked as well after the brewing stand. And that causes the end crystal to be moved. When it's moved, it realizes it's on fire, as you can see, probably. And it takes fire damage. And because it takes fire damage, it explodes. Okay. And it's exploding still when the block 36 is causing it to explode. So it's exploding in the tile entity phase, which means that this brewing stand that was here couldn't be removed properly until the next tick. And basically next tick, there's a block 36 here. So basically the tile entity here now is block 36. But there's still a brewing stand in the list to be ticked. And then the brewing stand realizes it's removed and then goes and removes the tile entity at its position, which happens to now be the block 36. And so you end up with a tile entity-less block 36. And the same thing can happen with any other tile entity.
This is a list of all the tile entities in the game, and we even included 1.13 tile entities. And we'll be going through all of them and showing what different properties change when this occurs to them. Now the way that you do this in survival is just like so. You can see we got ender crystal and some obsidian, got another rack with some fire beside it, and we got a piston here. And pretty much we got over here is just a low blast resistant tile entity that is being ticked. And what you'll do is you'll press this button and the power comes around, and then it will give you enough time so that you can get ready to place down your new tile entity. Then it will activate this piston, which will blow up the ender crystal. And then as soon as the ender crystal blows up this tile entity, the next game tick you have to place down your tile entity that you want to go in here. So it can be really difficult, a lot easier to perform on single player, but multiplayer it can be very difficult depending on your latency. You'll also need to place down this obsidian block 2 meters above where the ender crystal is. This way it will dampen the explosion from it so it don't destroy the surrounding blocks. Now it's very important that we do place down the new tile entity, that you don't right click on it, because a lot of them, if they right click on them, they will get updates and pretty much try to do certain things, and they'll end up turning to a tile entity again. So you can do different things to make it so you don't accidentally click on it. One thing you can do for most blocks is just shift, and this way you won't accidentally click on it. Let's give it a try. I'm going to push a button, use the alt clicker to try to place down very quickly, and also be holding shift at the same time. And then every once in a while you will get to work. Like I said, it really matters about latency in multiplayer. Of course, in single player it's a lot more easy to perform. So when you delete the tile entity of a furnace, it doesn't do too much visually. It will just remove any items that are inside of it. It'll also reset any of the times that the items need to smelt, as well as the time for the fuel. You can see when we blow it up, it doesn't really change anyway visually. Now if we remove the tile entity of a chest, by doing the same method, we'll remove the name as well as the contents of it, and if it's locked or not, that's something that you can add onto chest, as well as you can remove it if it's a loot table, remove the ability to check to see if it's a loot table. Go ahead and do that. Now if we would relog, you can see that the chest is invisible because we also lost the data that's used to determine which way the chest is rotated and which way, if you open it, which way the top hatch should render when it opens up. Now you can update this a couple different ways by like right clicking on it, opening it, or if you put like a hopper pointing into it with the item instead of the hopper, or if you had a hopper underneath of it, try and pull stuff out of it, then it would update and turn into a tile entity. So Enderchest is next. It's very similar to a chest where it go invisible, except it won't delete the items inside of it since those are stored elsewhere. And let's go ahead and activate this, and we'll relog, and the Enderchest will go invisible. And it's able to still put off the particles. You can see like the little kind of pinkish particles, more lavender particles, colors around the Enderchest. And just like before, you can put blocks beside it, and we'll update it. And your stuff inside will be completely safe, but if you would click on it, you can see it updates. Yeah, you can see the stuff I store in there. And the jukebox, pretty much what it does, its data goes with playing music. So let's go ahead and activate it. And pretty much no visual changes will occur to it. Just that if there was music inside of it, it would remove that. So the next one up is droppers as well as dispensers. They act very similarly. And we'll go ahead and activate this. What this does, it just deletes the items inside of it, similar to the other ones. Also remove like custom names, remove if it's locked. That's something that you normally see in non-vanilla. Also, if there's like loot tables to it, such as if this was appeared inside of like a jungle temple, they would have a loot table that would be removed. So with signs, it's pretty simple. It will just remove any text that's on the sign, as well as also delete the model so you can't see it. And we got a sign here. Let's just turn this on. And you can see the sign now, but if we would relog, pretty much you don't see any sign, and no one else would see the sign too if these chunks got loaded, if they came into the area. And pretty much putting blocks beside it doesn't do anything, but if you would right click on it, then it would update. Now it's not going to update to me until I relog or I reload these chunks, so let's just do that. And here, yeah, you can see the sign again. So with spawners, it's quite interesting. We got it set up here, a little bit different setup because with spawners you want to make sure you don't right click on them afterwards, as well as some other types of blocks you don't want to right click on them. So what you'll do is you'd like sit in here and put the spawner up against this trapdoor, and then it would place it over here as soon as this opening got vacant. That'll allow you to place it down. It's really difficult to get to work in multiplayer, but we have a setup here which allows us to do it in multiplayer by having a command block set down. You can see it is normally going to be a blaze spawner. Here's our blaze spawner, and let's go ahead and activate it. And it looks like a blaze spawner, but we will relog. And then you will see that it turns into pretty much just a block. There's no particles, there's nothing inside of it. Even if you place down like grass, it wouldn't spawn in like pigs or anything. It's not even like a default spawner. So pretty much just a block and nothing occurs with it. So if you would right click on the spawner, it would check to see if you have a, yep, there you go. Also putting like a hopper into it, pointing it will update it. Now you can see it updated the spawner, and now it goes back to the default. So it goes from a blaze spawner to just a normal block. And then when it updates, it goes to a default spawner, which spawns in pigs. It may be possible to get this in survival, although it would be extremely difficult. So next up is pistons, and more specifically block 36. So it can be not only in pistons, it can also be in the blocks they move. So like the head moves forward, or like when it's retracting, the body itself, when it goes invisible, is block 36. Or when you push a whole line of blocks, how the blocks vanish for a second and then reappear. These are all block 36. And then let's go ahead and test this out. So if we push this button, it's going to activate this piston, which is going to have it so inner crystal blows up, removing this brewing stand, and it's also update this piston. It's going to extend, and the block 36 of this piston head will be here, and then it will remove its data from it, so it'll just be stuck in that kind of state. It won't be able to do anything. So let's push that. So this is a block 36. There's also a ghost block here. Let's relog.
Yep.
So now you see it's invisible, and there is actually a block 36 block here. We're not able to stick blocks in there because it occupies it, and it's pretty much block 36 of a piston head. You can see the base is left behind, so yeah, you can see you can do a lot of cool stuff. Definitely check out Smokey's video. It has way more about this, and pretty much the data has been removed from it, so it's not able to turn back into a head. So next up is brewing stands, and they're very similar to like the furnace. So it's going to remove like the name as well as the item slots. It's also going to remove this meter here worth of brewing, pretty much the brewing meter here as well as the fuel meter. So next up is Enchanting Tables, and they're kind of cool because they have the visual of the books. Let's go ahead and activate this. And let's relog. And you see the book is removed. And yeah, pretty much the book is part of the entity data. Enchanting tables can also be named. Those names can be removed. But the slots inside don't actually contain items, so they wouldn't remove anything from there because it's similar to like a beacon where nothing can be stored there. And you can see it looks really cool. It's actually a new type of rare block to collect, and we'll have to start collecting these types of blocks for all the different types of rare blocks that we have on ProtoTech. So next is the end portal itself. That's also a tile entity. And let's go ahead and activate it. And pretty much what it does is it's going to remove the particles here. Just not the actual particles, but the visual background that you see when you move your head. You can see it's like moving kind of like the space looking stuff. Let's relog. And yeah, it pretty much makes it invisible because it doesn't render. We can still see the particles. And it still teleports you because that's all handled differently. Let's go ahead. It'll take us to the end dimension. So next up is beacons. And with beacons, this affects the locking as well as what level it is and pretty much the level on the pyramid. So there's like 4 levels. But remember how much there is, as well as remember what's the primer as well as the secondary slot. So let's go ahead and blow it up. And there's a beacon, and you see it puts off a beam, but if we would relog, it's going to remove the beam, and this is just a block, so it's not going to see that there's any iron here. It's not checking for any iron, it's not ticking or doing anything like that. It just considers it to be a block, and you can even update the iron block. Doesn't change anything. If you place a block beside it, this will update it and turn back into like a normal beacon where it checks the base and puts off a light. So next up is skulls. There's a lot of different variations that you can get in survival, not the player one, but the other ones you could get. And what this does is remove all the tile entity data for them. So it's going to reset them back to 0, which is the normal skeleton skull. Just go ahead and activate this. And pretty much that should be a normal skeleton skull. It's invisible right now. You can update it a couple different ways so that you can see it. If you break it off right now, in survival you'd get a skeleton skull. But if you would break it off with a piston, it would not work. So we can update this by using a hopper so you can see it. If I remove that, put a hopper underneath here, you see it turns into a skeleton skull. And this is pretty cool because you can convert wither skeleton skulls over into skeleton skulls. So yeah, you can make like wither skeleton farm and then convert them over into normal skeletons. If you want to learn more about this method, Smokey is making a video about this pretty soon. He also came up with the method to update them using a hopper, and I believe Myron Irio also hinted at this method as well, so you can check out his video. So next is the daylight sensor. They're pretty cool because they normally check for updates to see what the daylight changed. So let's go ahead and activate this. And yeah, pretty much it's going to make a daylight sensor that doesn't put off any power. So even though it's middle of the day, we put redstone dust here. There is no signal from here. There's also no power from this daylight sensor. Here's the normal one, what it looks like. Look at it, it says power 15, and then the power coming out of it is 15. So yeah, it's pretty much just a block. Has a really unique height, so you can use it for that. So for the daylight sensors, there's also a night mode. So we set it to night to see it work. I also switched out the command block. And it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's not going to put off any signal, even though it's completely night out. See, it says power 0 as well as the redstone being 0. And this block itself is a unique block, and that's why they're different. So hoppers is actually a very interesting one. So we switched out for the hoppers. And pretty much it's going to make it just be like a block. So it just, you can see it being a hopper, but it really doesn't keep any of its properties. It's not even able to pick up any items or put items into stuff. And yeah, pretty much would also delete all its container stuff. And it's essentially just a block. Now it can get updated if you have a hopper over top trying to push items into it, or if you have like hopper underneath that's trying to pull items out of it, then that would update it. So with these hoppers, it's really nice because they pretty much don't create any lag because they're not being ticked at all. And they also like lose their custom names, and if they're locked, they also lose that, as well as like the items inside, and if they have loot tables. Now another cool thing they also lose is their transfer time. The transfer cooltime will be reset. Now there were some more cool things that we discovered about hoppers, which we will put into a separate video, so look forward to that. So next up is comparators, and they're kind of cool because they normally, we put power behind them, they can put power in front of them. So we got set up here where we're going to make a comparator that should be powered on, but it'll show up not being powered on. And I believe you can do some other weird setups as well, but that's what we got going on right here. Let's power this. And as you can see, it destroyed that block, but now we have a comparator here that should be being powered from this redstone block, but it's not. So it's like a new type of rare block to be collected. So with comparators, they just store the signal strength in which they're supposed to put out in front of them. And if you remove that, then they just don't put out any signal, even if there's some signals behind them. So the next one is banners, and I really like the banners because it will pretty much reset the color of the banner. So what we got is a banner, which I believe this is going to be a light blue banner. And we're going to go ahead and activate this. And you can see it's a light blue banner, and let's go ahead and relog, and it's going to reset to be the default color. And so I think it resets it to be a black one, but also makes it invisible for now. So you can update this banner by like breaking a block, or like by putting a hopper into it, or putting a hopper underneath of it. So let's just break this block, and it should drop a black banner. There you can see. We went from a blue one to the default one. This one just has a tag of 0. That's why it went back to the black color. The next tile entity are structure blocks, and pretty much what a structure block will do when this happens is that it would just remove the data for a minute. So pretty much any information that you put inside of it, it'll just remove it. And of course, structure blocks aren't capable of getting in survival, but in case you do this in creative, that's what would happen. And similar to structure blocks are command blocks, and they pretty much act the same way. Any information that you had inside of it, it'll just remove it. So the next one's a pretty cool one, and it is the end gateway portals. I got ones here, and we'll go ahead and blow it up. You can see that it's sending off the beam. If we would relog, it's very similar to like the end portals, which it removes all the particles. Of course, in the overworld, they don't teleport you, but you can see it has the particles, but it loses the texture, so you can't see that. There are some other crazy things that can be done with these end gateway portals, which we will show in a future video. So next up is Schalke Boxes. They're very similar to chests. Their name, as well as the items inside them, can be removed. And Myron Uriel also showed this one. So if we go ahead and activate this, you'll see that it will explode, and it pretty much would remove anything inside of it, but you see it keeps the same color. Now beds are also tile entities. They never used to be, but once they added the bounciness, they became tile entities. They also got different colors as well. And this is kind of a cool one. I can do this one in survival not too hard. So if I go ahead and activate this, and then place down the bed. And then if we would relog, you can see that it made the bed invisible. At least it's part of it, because this is the part that got swapped out with the brewing stand. You can actually do both parts if you want to. So let's go ahead and do that. So to make the entire bed invisible, we just put down 2 brewing stands, pretty much do the same thing. Click the button, place down bed very quickly, and then just relog. And now you can see that both parts are invisible. You can highlight them, and they show up like an F3 as being like head and foot. And the cool thing about this is you can even sleep in the bed too. So it's night out, and you can click on the bed, and you can sleep in the bed, which is pretty cool. And it will not update. Yeah, so right click on it won't update, placing blocks beside it won't update it. Pretty much the only thing that will update it if like the hoppers will update it, as well as like breaking the bed. I think this is pretty cool because then you can make like an invisible bed inside your base and people wouldn't even know where it's at to break it. So if you would break this bed in survival, you can see that it turns into a red bed when it started out as a blue bed. And this is because the red bed is like the old default bed. Even though the numbers of the bed, if you would actually set it back to 0, it would end up being a white one. In 1.13, note blocks are no longer a tile entity, but in 1.12 they are. And if you would do this to them, pretty much what this would do is just remove what note is supposed to be playing. Now flowerpots are another tile entity in 1.12 that got removed in 1.13. So if you would do this in 1.12, pretty much what this would do is just remove what type of flower that they think is inside of the pot, and also remove the visual that you see on top of it. So we're here in 1.13, and you can do the same thing. You can go ahead and blow up different types of tile entities. And one of the newest ones added in 1.13 is the Conduit, and it has tile entity data as well. So let's go ahead and swap that out. And what you'll get is a Conduit, and pretty much the image itself is based on the tile entity. Let's relog. It takes a little while because it's 1.13. And you can see that it looks like it's gone altogether, but actually it's just invisible. You can see it right here, how I'm highlighting it. Pretty much look at F3. It just removes all the data, including the image which you see. This is pretty much the same image as you see here, how it makes this cool looks. And that is all removed, and that's why it just goes invisible. A very crazy glitch indeed, and stay tuned, we'll be showing more videos about this in the future. So if you guys found this interesting, show us a like and share this with others. If you'd like to see more content like this, weird glitches and other behavior, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell button. And if you have any questions, be sure to ask in the comments. Bye-bye.